大丈夫ですかね。はい。Everybody, can you hear me? Could you turn on your mic, please?
Hello, we can hear you very well.
Okay,
Hello, I
so
can hear you too.
how about another person? We should wait for another 1 minute or 2 minutes to all of the participants to show up. すいません、マイクをオンにしていただけますでしょうか。そろそろ始めたいというふうに思いますが。
よろしくお願いします。
カメラはちょっと無理ですかね、皆様。ありがとうございます。浅野さん、ありがとうございます。はい、他の方はちょっと無理ですかね。はい、大丈夫な方から、参加していただきたいと思いますが。はい。じゃあ始めたいと思います。Okay, from now on, I'd like to start this session. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for participating into this session today. At first, I'd like to introduce myself. So I'm today's host, and my name is Kaoru Amino, and I'm now affiliated to Shanghai Tech University. And though I'm Japanese originally, actually. So, and here this session is very international for several meetings, and this variety of the participants could enhance about an issue of human resource mobility or something. We have talked about a little about that. And before moving to the real session, I'd like to explain a little bit about these kind of things. Sorry to let me share the meeting like this. The shares, okay, here you can see. Can you see my PPT like this? Okay. So here is a kind of explanation. As a tool to enable our participation, there is some function to make this meeting more communicative. So ここに反応というものがありますね。この反応というアイコンを押していただくと、拍手とかいいねとかハートとか、そういうことがありますので、それを押していくともっとコミュニケーションが、疎通が良くなるかなというふうに考えております。ですね、次にはですね、このチャット部分もあります。で、チャットを開いていただくと、このクリックしていただきますと、こういうふうに見えるようになりますので、なかなか挙手して話すのが難しいなという方は、チャットを利用してお話しいただければというふうに思われます。これ、リアルタイムに反応していただけると思います。はい。So, I just considering to how many people? How many people? 10 people. Okay. Okay. How many people? 10 people. So, from now on, I'd like to let you talk a little bit about. Sorry. Is it okay? 10 people. Okay. So here's it's enough and shares like this. Okay. So, in prior to consider a little bit, prior to consider about the shift of EDL life, at first I like you to consider about what actually EDL life itself. So someone may dream of this kind of working style in high-rising building, and also can drink a little bit after 5, and that's actually my ideal life, working life when I was undergrad, a long time before, a little bit affected by bubble era. I'm not sure about that. So what I just want to ask, what is your ideal before COVID-19 and after COVID-19? Is there anything different happened here? So in my case, it is something like the high-rising apartment in the city, living place, household, social life, working environment. So these kind of things actually my dream life or something like that. But after COVID, it seems like the kind of our value in living place, household, the location, and social life, working environment has a little bit changed. So from now, I'd like to ask you tell me your story about what happened to your priority or value on ideal life, and is that show any difference before COVID and after COVID? So is there anyone who can talk about that? No? Okay. So how do you think the Yamagishi-san? No? Is there anyone? No. Is there anyone who can talk a little bit about that?
So I'll say something about it. So my ideal life before COVID would be, let's say, defined in terms of my freedom, my ability to move around without any restraints, my ability, let's say, what else? My ability to manage my health life in the way let's say, I conceive. So I don't want to be told, for example, what kind of vaccines I'm allowed to use and what other vaccines I'm not allowed to use. What else? My working life too. So, for example, I prefer working at office here at university rather than working at home. But during COVID, there are restrictions with regard to say the ways in which we work. Yeah, so I'd say my ideal life is to be able to manage all these different aspects before COVID.
Okay, thank you so much. And how do you think about Kim? Is there any difference happened after and before your COVID experience?
Yes, a lot of differences. For example, we don't shake hands anymore.
Right.
This is very common in Europe where I live. And I never much liked, hugs or, very close personal contact. And people used to say to me, well, that's because you come from the Far East. And and now everybody is refraining from shaking hands, hugging, and embracing people. So this is not a big change for me, but it's a small thing. It's a social shaking hands, going for coffee together was a very big part of any social interaction. And that's one thing. Working from home, I've always worked from home, so that hasn't changed much. But yes, just as our colleague, Dr. Frick Hartfi said before, taking care of ourselves, our health, interacting with the people we love, traveling. So last year I was in Japan for 3 days, and that was great for a conference with Professor Amina. But nowadays everything has to be online, but we'll make do with what we have.
So thank you so much. And I feel like for the Italians, it's quite hard to avoid that kind of physical contact. I know the Italians so easy to talk all together, face to face, and everybody just accept kind of receives another and the spirit in their face, and that kind of sign of the the feeling of the nearby, standing nearby you would also erased a little bit. And
also, if you cover your face, that's very difficult,
Baccio, right? You can't anymore can't Baccio or something like that. Sorry. そう、どうですかね。浅野さんと平野さんは、ひろゆきさん、浅野博之さんと平野さんは参加してらっしゃいますけど、なんかコロナのその受けられる以前と後で、何かこう違ったことって、生活が変わったとか、自分の価値観が変わった。夢の生活が少し、理想の生活が変わったってことはありますでしょうか。じゃあ、浅野さんなんかどうですか。何か、話していただくことできますでしょうか。どうでしょうか。
日本語でも大丈夫ですかね。
あまり変わらない。
日本語でも、
英語ではみんなで共有できますけど、どちらでも大丈夫です。
じゃあすみません、日本語で失礼します。
はい。
まあ出勤が週に1回とかなりましたね。
リモートワークですか？
そうですね。リモートワークが会社として推奨されるようになったりとか、それ以外には時差通勤をして、電車の混雑中に被らないように、社員に安全意識みたいなものを会社が強く言うようになりました。はい。
そしたらどうですかね、今、ワーケーションなんか流行ってますけど、その沖縄に行ってですね、そういうことされてる方なんかいらっしゃいますか？あるいは引っ越し先を都会の真ん中から田舎の方に変えようかななんて、そういうことはどうでしょうか？
ワーケーションはしたいんですが、なかなか子どもの小学校とか学校の休みとなかなか重ならないと厳しいなと思って、したいと思いつつまだできてないですね。
なるほどですね。So he is kind of, his company is really sensitive about this kind of prevention issues. So he just allowed to work once, to appear at the company once for a week. And usually they choose the remote work from their own home. And also the companies kind of recommended the employers to work, to commute in different, avoiding the rush hour at the morning. So that kind of things, that kind of shift happened. And how, どうでしょうか？舞さん、平野舞さんとかいかがでしょうか？平野舞さん。
はい。
平野舞さんはですね、例えば、独身ですか？そう言ったら、すみません。例えば、そうですか。そしたら、ご夫婦間とかご家族間の時間は昔に比べて増えたとか、そういうことってございますか？
そうですね。まず、仕事が在宅に変わったので、リモートワーク。で、I work from home っていうんですね。で、my children's school was closed. あとは、そうですね。my family spent a lot of time at home, only home. から、すいません、まだってる。
いや、本当にあとどんどん言っていただければ。
子供たちの学校に関して言うと、school classes are almost online. あと、再開したはいいけど、オンラインとか中心だったりもします。で、あと、一番個人的に苦しいことは、I love to travel abroad, but I can't go anymore.
Yeah, that's really great kind of answers that I expected, actually. Thank you so much for your sharing, Mai-san.
You're welcome.
Actually, that's what I actually want to accept, emphasize here. Oh my God. So from here, oh my God. So let me share the previous slide like this. Okay. So, so the also, I think that kind of things could be, that kind of shift in life also affect a little bit towards science. So how you perceive the science, is it agree with science and not agree with the science? Are you pro or con science? And some researchers of the researcher about the chimpanzee or monkey, the primatologist Dr. Jane Goodall emphasized that bushmeat wild animals, hunting wild animals, and that kind of collective farm could be the reason of the COVID or something like that. And also, as my son shared together with us, as previously, as that kind of airplane have developed in our world, so there is not so much way to prevent the COVID and Ebola at once like this. So nowadays there is a lot of jet storage and air Asia, every kind of that LCC happened. We can travel to everywhere we want, right? So that could be the reason of the corona-19 spread so quickly all over the world. And also this kind, but at the same time, the vaccine is so quickly progressed by Pfizer and Moderna, and also ECMO is a kind of one tool progressed by science. So actually, I want to hear from all of you guys, but I just want to introduce you about Professor Kim's work and Jaward's work about how to correct the opinion and how to extract the opinion, a public opinion towards COVID-19. So, COVID-19 について皆さんどういうふうに思っているか、価値観が変化したかとかですね、そういうことをやっぱりお二方は研究してるんですね。As you know, the Lombardia in Italy disgraces face that kind of devastating result affected by COVID-19, and there is a lot of populations about senior peoples, and so Kim would introduce, share his work, her work about analysis of seniors' opinion is shift under COVID-19. And the next Jaward can share the kind of his published work about the based on the data extracted by big data, cloud, and AI facilitation. It's a little bit corrective. It's a big data and really lot of evidence he showed in his research. So these are really interesting, and I would like to introduce two persons from turn by turn. So at the first, I'd like to give my turn to Professor Kim and then Jaward. And hi, Kim. Could you take your turn, please? Thank you so much. And
Hello?
Right.
Okay, so I am supposed to share my screen now and go on with my presentation. So let me do that. And I hope this works out fine. You should be able to see my presentation. Could you just confirm you can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Okay. Thank you very much. So, 25 minutes to talk about something that interested a very large share of people throughout the world. So, my point of view is that of the representation of senior people and also their own self-representation. So, usually, elderly people, old people, seniors, whatever we want to call them, have always considered vulnerable. They are vulnerable because of physical, but also psychological and cognitive reasons. With old age, we all know that all of these abilities, these skills we have, including those connected with our body, tend to decrease and tend to be limited. My point of view in recent research was studying seniors as a group of consumers. So because they are increasing, senior citizens are increasing in number, and in Italy, just like in Japan, we have an increasing number of elderly people. These people are enjoying a longer life expectation, for example, life expectancy, and they're also enjoying better health. So this makes them active citizens for a long time. And so this makes them targets for sales people, so advertising and marketing targets. So I wanted to take a look, study the concept of vulnerability in seniors from the point of view of consumers, so marketing and sales, because that helped me very much, and it had many similarities with linguistic and communicative studies. We know that marketing and sales are carried out throughout communicative strategies. So in Europe, this image infographic comes from the European Union, and so the European Union, as a body, as an institution, knows that and acknowledges senior citizens as a vulnerable type of consumers. Why? Because they may have problems buying or using goods or services, because they may feel vulnerable due to their personal characteristics. For example, I can't see very well anymore, or I can't hear very well. These are very, very common aspects. And as you get older, you might have cognitive problems, or your experience could be based on something that used to be topical, but it no longer is. And so you may find it hard to understand the world that you now live in. Also, you could have less or more limited access to products or services because you can't use the internet, or because you cannot walk very well any longer, so you can't go out. And so your choices and your options would be limited. And also, for the entirety of these reasons, senior citizens may be more susceptible to marketing practices. And so this marketing perspective was a means to me as a linguistics and communication scholar to see how we can communicate as institutions, public or private, so corporations or governmental institutions, with all their citizens. So consumer vulnerability is just a repetition of what was in the previous image. What I was interested in was the vulnerability, the weakness concerned with communication or with being addressed by certain marketing companies, advertising companies. The European Union takes this very seriously. There are actions and there are campaigns, initiatives throughout Europe. For example, the Active and Healthy Aging Through Europe. So we are looking at something that comes from the European Union, but I am sure that in many developed countries, in Japan, for example, or in the United States, we could have much the same situation. So the idea of taking care of the elderly, the idea of socializing, the idea of being active and of following our own prescriptions and taking care of our health, being independent, being interconnected. Has COVID changed all this? It has. We will see that, and we'll see whether for the worse or for the better. This is particularly about the UK, the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, as you will know, is leaving Europe, the Union as such, but it's not going anywhere geographically. So it's still geographically Europe. The United States is very advanced in marketing to seniors. And so, for example, these are all examples of offers in the field of tourism, for example, to the elderly. So what do we see? We see things that are suitable for senior citizens. We see, for example, cruise ship trips where everything is organized and managed and set and protected. We see escorted tours. We see city breaks that are also escorted. We see quiet countryside places. And again, this ideal image of an older couple who are still together, who are still happy, healthy, and together. Right. So this was just to, let's say, set the context. So in terms of senior identity, which is what interested me in past research, was the idea of self-representation. And there are a lot of studies about how senior people, senior citizens, talk about themselves and their own age. For example, Copeland and Copeland are two scholars who have investigated this issue for a long time. And the outcome, the result of this sort of investigation has always been that senior people, at least in, these studies are mainly Western-oriented, Western society oriented. The idea has always been that positive age themes have always been more frequently presented. What does it mean? It means that when older people talk about themselves, they tend to give a more positive representation, to represent themselves as better, healthier, better feeling than they probably are. There is also an issue of ageism that depends on the culture and on the society. In some cultures, in some societies, older people may be highly respected. In others, the opposite may occur. So there could be an issue of ageism, people being prevented from doing things because of their age, and discrimination based on age. As social consumers, an interesting notion about self-perception and self-idealization has always been that of age that is not connected with a person's real age. For example, this is an old approach. You see this from 1985, but it's still quite topical in my point of view, from my point of view. So, for example, well, in Italy, in Europe, I would talk about Italy because that's where I am based. Asking a person how old he or she is, especially she, is considered to be impolite, right? So age is a sensitive issue. You don't talk about it, just like you don't talk about money, for example. These are taboos. It can be different in other cultures, in other societies. But what you can easily ask, without sounding impolite, what you can easily ask a person is, how old do you feel? And for example, if I asked you this, Kaoru, today, how old do you feel this evening?
I every time feel like 20 years old. I'm so English and positive about myself.
Okay, so you feel 20 years, like you're 20 years old. And how old would you wish you were? How old would you like to be if you could choose?
Yeah, so my image about the kind of Japanese people are so easy to discriminate. So I don't like to discriminate on the kind of basis of the stereotypes, older and a little bit bad at managing this kind of Zoom tool, and I'm kind of taking the role of the host, so I definitely need to be esteemed and good at tech things and good at managing Zoom. So that's why I try to insist that kind of things. So that kind of things happen. I think.
Okay, right. So I'll tell you about my own idea. How do I feel this morning? Because it's morning here. I feel about 60 years old. And how old would I like to be? Well, I would probably like to be 35 years old. So the discrepancy age, the difference between how I feel, how old I feel, and how old I wish I were, is what we call a discrepancy age. And of course, the bigger the gap, the more negative our perception of ourselves in terms of age. The lower the gap, the better our relationship with our own age. So this is interesting because these are things that we can ask people in Europe, we can ask people in Italy without offending anyone. Why? Because never is one's actual age, chronological age, ever considered, which is a taboo. So the older consumer's ideal age usually is lower than their self-perceived age. So when we market and advertise products and services addressed to the elderly, we tend to use images of active people, happy people, healthy people. So of course, we focus on the strengths and on the increased health and happiness of older people, and not on the negative aspects, those that make them vulnerable. So in the past, a couple of years ago, I have developed a method for communicating with elderly people based not on how old one is, but on self-perception of age, of one's age. And it's a linguistic model, of course, so I won't go into detail into it, but it takes into consideration positive and negative age identity themes. So everything that makes us feel strong, everything that makes us feel weak, and whether this opinion comes from within ourselves or whether it comes from the outside. So, for example, I'll make an example with tourism again. An old person deciding about whether he or she is going on a cruise ship tour. So, should I go? Yes, because I feel great. I want to socialize. I want to be happy. I want to see the world. Should I not go? Well, for example, that could be expensive. My children may criticize me for wanting to find a new partner, for example. And so this is a communicative model that I developed in just a couple of years ago. Now, I don't want to insist on that model. That is not the point here. But my point is that model from 2 years ago has been completely reversed by the advent of COVID-19. So how many seniors have been and will be affected at the end of this pandemic, if it's ever going to end? How many seniors will be dead by the end of it? And how many seniors will be left? We've always said there's an increasing number of aging people in Italy, in Japan, in the United States, in most developed countries. But this is changing everything. And so shall we consider or reconsider the notion of senior vulnerability? And should we also reconsider the way we communicate with them? So how has COVID-19 affected senior identity? Well, it's very nice to talk about self-perception. So I am 60 years old, but I look 10 years younger, for example. And so that is more prestigious. It gives me a higher status in society because I look younger. So it's aging, anti-aging cream, face creams and products and everything. Well, this self-perception, which was very good for selling things and also for communicating with older people, is no longer relevant after COVID-19 or during COVID-19. These very nice ideas of discrepancy, cognitive ideal ages, they're no longer useful. Why? Because we're back to a level of reality, which is chronological age. We can no longer ignore it. So a lot of people, senior people, here in Italy, everywhere in the world, I guess, have been invited to stay home, not to have contact with people. And that was based on their chronological age. It doesn't matter if they look younger. So it was back to how old they actually were. So has this pandemic, has this crisis helped or hindered seniors in their social roles? And how will senior identity will be affected in the end by COVID-19? I am going towards my conclusions, which are not statements, they are open questions because we're still living through this emergency. And I'll make this example. A vaccine is ready, will be ready and distributed very, very soon. So there's going to be a rush to get vaccinated. Now, what will happen to seniors? Will they be favored by governments in vaccinating them first? Will they be favored because they are more vulnerable physically based on their chronological age? Or will they be penalized because they are socially less useful? They don't work, so that they don't make money, they don't contribute to the economy. They are more expensive for the welfare because they cost if they fall ill and have physical and mental problems. What will they do? Will they step forward to saying, well, I want to be vaccinated because I am 70 years old, and even if I look 50, I am still old. So will they acknowledge their chronological age and their vulnerability? Or will they keep on like it was, as it was before the COVID crisis, rejecting one's own chronological age because that's how old they feel and how old they look? not how old I am. So will they continue to feign perceived strength? And this is how I'm going to conclude, and then we'll move on to the next speaker, our colleague. And in terms of game theory, so talking about incentives, reactions to incentives, interactions between people socially to such incentives, what I can say is that COVID-19, even in linguistic and communicative studies, points to and highlights a social dilemma and an individual dilemma. So what will governments do? Who will they save? Who will you save? Who will you throw? And also an individual dilemma. Do I admit that I am old and vulnerable and go for the vaccine? Or do I just keep on considering myself strong, healthy, and young in spite of my real age? And also economic versus social considerations and disadvantages. So governments will really have to choose whom to save and whom to address first. So we'll have to see in the next few months or weeks even, who will cooperate and what kind of optimization governments will choose in, taking care of their own societies. So these are a few references, and I would like to thank you very much for listening to me. And so, arigato. Thank you.
Hi, Hal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your very insightful presentation. Is there anyone who have any question or comment to her presentation? Is there どうでしょうか、皆様。キム先生のご発表はですね、主観的私はやっぱ若く感じるから、私60歳でも20歳と同じことをしたい、そういう気持ちの持ち方が若さというような論調があって、やっぱりそのエイジズム、自分の年齢的な差別、あなた40歳だからそれできないわって、もう20歳ぐらいに考えたら、もうあなたは20歳じゃないからそれできないって、エイジズムって年齢差別につながっていくってことで、割と社会科学最近はですね、そういうふうにして主観的指標、自分の年齢は自分が決める。The age was decided by ourselves. そういう客観的主観的指標があったんですけど、COVID のおかげでその、見方が変わったと。主観的な指標に変わって、やっぱりその、実年齢が60歳だったらワクチンを優先的に受けられる。ということになって、より主観的な感じでやっていかなきゃいけない。でも私のお母さんみたいな、actually my mother feel like very much about herself as a kind of 40 years old or 45 years old, my mother. I actually really old, as you know. So she is almost like more than 70 and almost like 80. But he feels like himself. So he believes her immune system would be very good. だからワクチンなんか大丈夫。need not to take any vaccine. だと実際それはダメですね。そうだから we should esteem what objective value and standard. そういうふうに政府が変わってきてるってことなんですけれども、そういう2つのバランス、2つある。それをオプティマイゼーションってゲームセオリーによってその調整しようバランスを取ろうってことなんですけど、何かこの中の方で何か言いたい方とかいらっしゃいましたらですね、どうでしょう、山岸さん、浅野さん、質問なんかございましたら何か言っていただきたいんですけど。ないですか？はい。So I feel like it's really much related to the Merleau-Ponty or Husserl subjectivity in intersubjectivity. I really hope you to publish this kind of great work. And next, I'd like to introduce Jawad research. Jawad さんいかがでしょうか？ Jawad, are you okay to?
Yes.
Okay. So could you take your turn, please?
Okay, sure.
Yes. スポットライト。あれ Where? スポットライト置き換え
Can
る。
you see the slides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Jawad. So next slide, I will introduce myself. Today, I'm going to talk about large scale, not large from three class of people, but it is a large scale from three class of people. Like I'm going to talk about large scale discussions. The participants selected from three class of peoples, namely doctors, health experts, patients, and local citizens in Afghanistan to discuss the challenges of COVID-19 they faced in Afghanistan. So today I'm going to present the case study and the result of the discussion's insight. We already published the result in one workshop and international conference. So I'm a PhD student at Nagoya Institute of Technology. I received my bachelor and master degree in computer sciences. My research interest is about civic technology, AI for social good, knowledge-based software engineering, intelligent energy efficient communication protocols, crowd AI collaborations, and Internet of People. And the research we are working is about using mining and natural language processing and generation technologies to build a conversational agent platform, and then extend the effects and output of those technologies and products out of lab into real field, such as social society. So in order to achieve two goals, one is to promote awareness and then get collective intelligence, and finally sustain the sustainability of society and help to solve the solution, fix wicked problems, some elusive problems which cannot be fixable through using tools, but can be achievable through discussion. So discussion is very, very important. If we talk about COVID-19, discussion is early days was soft solutions, and now is also a soft solutions. So COVID-19 don't have any another option, just discussion to call people stay home, make distance, make social distance, follow instruction of WHO, such of that. So today I'm going to report those things which we done in Afghanistan in collaboration with Ministry of Public Health Afghanistan. So my talk is structured about I'm going to outline the objective method we used, the setting, result, the linguistic analysis on collected data, and conclusion. So as we know that the group of people, when the group of people discuss in collective way, we can get really valuable insight from that discussion. If one people discuss, we cannot get. If two people, three people, four people, if crowd discuss, then we understand. So from early days, COVID-19, the only solution was to promote awareness and to engage people into COVID-19, that COVID-19 is real. Actually, people would not believe that COVID-19 is real. They thought that this is influenza, this is flu, this is something like that. But while people believe that, it needs to promote their awareness to make them feel that it's real. So the objective of our research was to promote the awareness and engage people into discussion. So we actually use our system and in collaboration with Ministry of Public Health to invite patients and health experts, of course, based on their convenience. It was, and then we promote the Facebook post through using Facebook ad to call upon crowd to come and participate into this discussion, social experiment. So we use the accidental sampling. We call upon people, and if you are okay, available, then you can participate. So I want to notably mention that there is no unification, or we not unified the class of people like citizens, doctors, and patients, because it was very difficult. It was all accidental. We selected different samples. Yeah. So as you know that COVID-19, to combat with COVID-19 was to take early measures to prevent outbreak. And still, this is the solution. But how to do that if we don't understand the streamline of people's thoughts, if we don't understand the streamline of people, what people thinking, and the issues and solutions inside the society, social society, it's very difficult to take early measures. So in order to do that, we need some info-epidemiological approaches. How? Use information technology to understand epidemiology. Epidemiology is not only like to, how to say, that we have the soft from the streamline of people minds. For example, if I'm talking about COVID-19, how the discussion, how it could be extracted to understand what I'm talking. Yeah. So there was research in China. They used Twitter to track people public concerns while they're talking about COVID-19. And they collected data. There was another research. They collected data from social platform in China to assess public concerns and perceptions, as well as track public behavior in response to COVID-19 outbreak. So if you understand the public concerns, then you can take early measures, for example, lockdown, or to remove lockdown. So if you don't know the concerns from epidemiology, so you cannot take the measure. Actually, in Afghanistan, the health infrastructure line is very, very poor. And we don't have access to technology. Our health infrastructure is very poor compared to other countries. So therefore, we do need more help and support from these technologies to take early measures. So we believe that collective intelligence can help us to extract the discussion trees of social society. Of course, the COVID-19 affected different societies, for example, economy, political, trade, everything. But the core backbone of these societies are social society. So if we don't understand the discussion tree of social society, then other societies can be affected. Therefore, we wanted to extract the discussion structure of real society to understand. So in our work, we used artificial intelligence as a representative application, while we use discussion support system based on AI facilitations. So to host, mediate, extract, visualize, and then get the real valuable insights to inform the health policymakers to take actions, or to let them know these literatures in order to be prepared for future pandemic. Of course, this pandemic will not be the first and last. So there will be coming, or this pandemic will be sustained. If the vaccine, if we get the vaccine, of course, the vaccine will come to Afghanistan after 2 years or 4 years. So we cannot get it very soon because we're not that much rich country. So we need to prepare, softly prepare. That's why we need this type of insights for our policy making, health policy making. Yeah. So the aim was to facilitate the discussion, engage people, promote their awareness, harness the collective intelligence, and use those collective intelligence for health or for health policy making. And once we collected the real insights, we as a human-led conducted linguistic analysis study in order to count the words used within each extracted elements of discussion. For example, we use Ibis Model. The Ibis Model classifies your opinion into 4 elements. Your opinion can be like issue, or it can be a idea, or it can be a support idea, or it just argue in a negative way, your idea. So we use that one to somehow understand the real insight, and I will show you how it works. So the method we used to, as I say, is general methodology to conduct experiment among cross-class of people. The reason we select cross-class of people to understand their mind. I mean, how they think about COVID-19. Of course, COVID-19 was something new for all people, but you know, we wanted to check how the opinion based on what elements that opinion rise. So the methodology we used, like as I mentioned before, is AI technology, but the most important part was crowd and institutions. The work between institution and crowd help us to conduct this study. Without their support, we cannot proceed with this. So the process starts by adopting accidental sampling, recruiting private citizens, and invite health experts and patients. The patients, we received support from Japan, Afghanistan, Japan Communicable Disease Hospital. We just become able to collect 21 patients. Actually, we tried our best, but you know, they just post at least one. So all of these people, we asked them to post at least one, because you know, it is very difficult to involve them into discussion, long discussion. We just asked them to post only once, one post, enough. So all these people post only once. So the participant chosen based on their availabilities, personal agreement, a consent form during login to discussions. From all participants, 87.1% of them were males and only 12.9% were females. It is because Afghanistan is dominated by male discussants. Actually, female, due to culture problem in Afghanistan, a woman is not allowed to engage in discussions. And of course, maybe their voice cannot be heard. That's why they are not encouraged to discuss. So our discussion theme was the challenges of COVID-19 in Afghanistan. This was the theme discussion for all class of people. So the result, we got more than 3,000 page views. I mean, for example, we provide the discussion code. Of course, another people also participate, but they not engage in discussion. Therefore, only 1,101 registered participants engage in our discussion. So from the participants, from the citizens, we received 502 issues. I mean, their post extracted as an issue, 502. Only 29 was extracted as ideas. It is because we asked them to post the challenges of COVID-19 in Afghanistan. So the reason is that everybody, while logging and then start the discussion, they post as an issue, of course. Challenge is an issue. So, but we set a ratio of 1:5 to citizens. It means that after 5 citizens post their opinions, then the AI engage in discussion and asking the people how to solve the issue. So AI interacted, for example, asking the crowd, what is your solution to this issue? So therefore, the AI can help to increase ideas as well. We couldn't ask them, we not ask them to provide ideas, but AI facilitation help to collect these issues, these ideas. About the health experts, we collected 387 issues. But the difference here, if you see, the ideas is increased. the ideas is 70. It is because of AI, but most importantly, it is because of pre-knowledge of doctors and health experts on the TEMA stance, because they know COVID-19 and they can easily post the ideas for fixing the issues. So for the patient, we received 23 issues, only 3 ideas, the 3 ideas from them. So it means that the patient actually practically understand the issues, and they faced the problems while hospitalized in hospital. So the idea that they said, please take physical distance, but the doctors usually say stay at home. But so here is the discussions about the merit and demerit. Actually, the AI can classify it into 4: issue, idea, pros and cons. The pros here is we call it merit, and cons we call it demerit. So the merit is somehow to support the given idea or the given issue, and cons is to somehow oppose. I mean, not agree with the given idea or issue, but actually it should support the idea. But in our case, it's sometimes support idea and issue. For example, if I say COVID-19, staying at home is an issue idea, but in a citizen perspective point of view, staying at home is issue. It's not idea. So actually how we found it through conducting linguistic analysis. So this is actually the distributions of ideas, issues, pros and cons extracted by AI per day. So you can see we conducted from April 27 to May 29. So you can see the days we started. So actually the early days, COVID-19, people informed about COVID-19 was about like March 25, something like that. Yeah. Actually, people before that not believe about COVID-19. So therefore, in our discussion, you see May like 15, that it is a peak time. So everybody, come and they engage in our discussion. So this is the extracted ideas, opinions per class: citizens, health expert, patients. So as I already explained that the health expert issues and ideas outperform compare another classes. It is because effect of AI facilitation, but the pre-knowledge and the interest stance of the health experts compare other 2 classes. So the linguistic analysis we conducted the linguistic analysis on extracted elements. We just get annotation file, and based on the issues, ideas, pros and cons, we conducted. We targeted 10 most used keywords within these extracted elements. So the issues, top 5 counted. Actually, we conducted 10, but here, due to space of time, so I would like to report 5. The top 5 counted keywords within issues of doctors were: number 1, COVID-19. COVID-19 is issue. Doctors said COVID-19 is issue. Then number 2, doctors used patients. They said patients is issue. The doctor says. How? If you not look at the content, then you cannot understand the keyword. So the 3rd keyword they used in issue was shortage. Shortage is issue. And the 4th was resources. Yeah, and yeah, they said that this is an issue. And the 5th one that they used was health. Health is issue. Actually, inside issue, they said health is issue. Yeah, actually health is not issue, but health, because they cannot ensure the health of society. That's why they say it's issue. So from the health, from the patient side, they outline the bit beds is issue. And the doctors, they say doctors issue. Actually, said because doctors is lack of doctors. They say lack of doctors. We don't. There's no enough doctors, COVID-19 doctors. So that's why the doctors issue. And the ventilator is issue. There was no ventilator in Afghanistan that time. There was only two ventilators in Afghanistan. So service was issue. Health service was issue because of poor health service, and health was also the issue. So from the citizen perspective point of view, the most counted issues, keyword with an issue was lockdown. The health expert, interesting point that they said, lockdown is issue, but actually doctor says lockdown is an idea, but citizen says lockdown issue because they said if it is lockdown, we lost our jobs. So if we lost our jobs, so we cannot feed our families, therefore lockdown is issue. Second was plan. Plan was issue. It means plan. There was no economic response plan from the government. Actually, if the government asks the citizens to stay at home, but then you cannot support the citizens, then this is an issue. So actually in Japan, they support each individual. For example, they pay 100,000 each citizen. But in Afghanistan, they not pay anything. So the third was corruption. You know, the corruption, actually our government is corrupted government from administration and other perspective point of view. So also there was corruption on COVID-19 budget. So therefore the local citizens said the corruption is issue. And they said the fourth number, they said COVID-19 is issue. Actually, in doctors said the COVID-19 is, they said it is issue on the first counted, but the citizens said it is fourth position. And the last one, they said actually the center. Actually, the center means, for example, when your case is positive, then you are redirected to center. But Afghanistan, they made university as a center to hospitalize the positive COVID-19 patients. But in Japan, they have a lot of beds in hospital, as well as they get some hotels to hospitalize. But in Afghanistan, they use the universities, public university for that one. Actually, public university is not a center, a COVID-19, to hospitalize those people. So they say this is a problem. So yeah, actually, this is from the ideas. Maybe I'm running out of time, therefore I'm not reporting this one. Also, we found that ideas about top 10 counted keywords in ideas. And this is from merit and demerit. Actually, this is the count of word frequencies for 3 groups of participant IBIS extracted elements, issues, ideas, pros and cons for top 10 counted words. And this is, for example, I just zoom in this one, the issues. This is how we extracted how we conducted word count frequency on extracted of opinions. How this somehow says human in the loop. For example, we cannot believe on AI itself. We need, as a human lead study, should conduct a study on what AI extracts. If we just let everything to AI, then AI cannot understand that one too much. How, for example, here, user A posts how to stay safe during COVID-19. Our AI, conversational agent, is extracted as an issue. Okay, that's correct, this is issue. But we conducted word frequency on this sentence, how to stay safe during COVID. So we found stay 1, safe 1, COVID-19 1. So each of these, stay 1, safe COVID-19. The weight of these keywords very difficult to understand which one is more important, but we found the number counted 1, 1, 1. So it's okay. The user B says another one. How about staying at home? Our AI can extract this as an idea, okay, for the issue. So we conducted word count, staying 1, home 1, okay? So these are 1. So our AI now engage for example, suppose. But this is just an example, because in our case, it should be 3. And then once after 3 or 4 or 5 posts, does AI engage? But this is just an example for the scenario. AI says everyone, calling everyone, what is the merit of this idea? So this can be in mediation. So it's merit or mediation. So we didn't conduct a word frequency on the AI facilitation. Then the user C come and say, when we can stay safe, also keep our community safe. So this is very important. So this is a merit. The AI extracted this merit, but from our human-led study, this user C posted opinion is very valuable. It is really valuable insight. Why? Because we word usage count shows that stay used 1, safe 2, keep 1, community 1. So safe is a 2-dimensional advantages. How? By staying at home, you can save yourself as well as the community. So from our perspective point of view, this is very, very important from this communication transactions. So here the AI cannot help us to understand the confidence of valuable confidence of extracted opinions. So what we done is to analyze those, found out the word count usage within each extracted elements, then reported to Ministry of Public Health. So this is the conclusion. We conduct a cross-class of people discussion using agent platform. We presented various statistical information about a total of 2,046 opinions from 1,101 registered citizens by both AI and human-led studies. So doctors were 588, citizens were 492, and patients were just 21. The word frequency of each group discussion data, we analyzed them based on the extracted IBS elements of our agent. So we found that the frequently of keyword which extracted by from issues like COVID-19 was most on health experts. But bits were the most word used by patients, and lockdown used by local citizens. So additionally, we found that for ideas, merit and demerit. So notably, our result published to IGKI, AI for Social Good, and for IEEE WIC ACM conference. So to our best knowledge, this was the first time to organize a cross-people dialogue using on COVID-19, using a conversational AI in collaboration with Ministry of Public Health and Health Organization. Health Organization, we get support from 2 universities, medical universities, and Success Gate Health Organization in Afghanistan. So in our future work, we need to improve the accuracy of AI facilitations and extractions, because the AI should extract the valuable comments from the transaction, but now just extract based on issues, ideas, but cannot estimate the confidence and the value and weight of these extracted elements. And in the future, also, we want to improve this extraction accuracy, the confidence of these extracted elements by adopting some new mining technologies. This is the references. We just published 2 paper on the report, the result. Thank you very much. So if you have any questions, most welcome.
So I'm just considering, is there anyone who have any question about Jarvik's presentation? Please speak up if you have any. So,
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Jawad, for your presentation. That was really, really interesting. And I was really and deeply struck by the point of view of a country such as Afghanistan, when you said we are looking at receiving the vaccines in 2 years' time, and here in Europe we are looking at 2 months' time. So there's an issue of privilege and of economics, and that is really about social imbalance and global imbalance. So thank you very much for reminding us.
And thank you very much. This is based on the citation that I get from the National Institute of Public Health of Afghanistan. But actually, 2 years, this is estimation time that they count. And they says that the access to the vaccine for public takes 2 years for Afghanistan. Yeah. This is what they done study. This is not my study.
Okay. Is there anyway? So, that in nutshell, such a the research is about 何ですかね、あれですよね、クラウドデータを元にしたデータで、テキストマイニングみたいのをされたんですけど、そのテキストマイニングのデータっていうのをクラウドで政府が、ちょっと参加して助けてくれたと。それでですね、最初それを IBM のトピックを分けるっていう機能があるシステムで分析してテキストマイニングをしたんですけど、医者とですね、患者と最初シティズン、市民っていうのを分けたらですね、その3つのフリクエンシーっていうんですかね、ここが登場する頻度っていうのが違ってて、shortageの resources ってそういうのがドクターでは多かったんですね。そうですね。不足とか医療物資の不足とかそういうの多そうですもんね。で、患者の場合はベッドとかですね、サービスとか、やっぱりどういうサービスが受けられるか、どういうベッドがたくさんあるかどうかっていうのがやっぱ大切ですよね。患者の見方からしたらですね。で、何ですかね、最後のシティズン。やっぱり市民の場合はやっぱりロックダウンとかアドミニストレーションの行政のこととかですね、コラプションって何のコラプションかちょっとよくわからないですけど、政治的なちゃんとやってよみたいなことですかね。そういうことが多かったってことなんですよね。で、そのトピックを分ける際に、次トピックを分けた際に、イシュー、それでアイディアっていうのを分けていったんですけれども、それでいろいろ数えて、何ですかね、海要素に分けていった。そういうことが IBM のシステムではできるってことなんですけど、So here I have some question about you. So you differentiated each topic to any category, to the issue and idea and the supporting idea or merit or facilitation. So could you show me the 19th? Slide 19, I have some question about. So you said like there is two kind of approach, soft kind of things, and used by very objective kind of statistic based kind of approach. So here now I want to ask from the perspective of case study, that kind of soft as analysis of the discourse here. So あれですよね。how to stay safe during COVID-19? We can stay safe, also keep our community safe. これですね。How don't you think like this is a new issue? Because keep our community safe is totally different from the ideas previously uttered by user B, right? So it can be also categorized like the issue 2 or something like that. So that we can stay safe. That could be the evaluation of previous two discourses. But the third one, our community safe is totally, it seems like a new issue. We can separate this sentence to two parts, and this how you can set like a merit. And I'm just considering, is there any kind of same level of an analysis, meditation, idea, issue, and merit? So it's just kind of issue uttered by AI, just one word. So could you tell me about how you in detail try to categorize, and how do you think IBM system logically work here, this kind of analysis?
Thank you very much for the questions. If you consider the transition of discussion, for example, the discussion suppose started by user A, right? So user A just raised an issue, right? So just raise an issue. and which AI extracted as issue with some confidence rate, for example. And then from 1, for example, if AI is confident, for example, 0.6 or 0.7. So the user B says, for example, then another user just posts for how about staying at home, for example. So, the user which posts the opinion and extract it as idea. So this user must be an expert or a person with pre-knowledge. Because if you don't have a pre-knowledge, you cannot post this type of opinion. Then the AI, for example, because the role of AI to post facilitation messages to lead the discussion. So AI now here just mediate by posting a facilitated message, for example, asking everyone, for example, calling everyone to ask their opinions. What is the advantage for this idea? For example, if you say staying at home, what is the advantage of staying at home? So another user says, by staying at home, you can stay safe as well as you also keep the community safe. Actually, if the user see this extracted as a merit, but the confidence of extraction is not the same as extracted as idea or issue. Of course, it could be maybe 0.5 or 0.5, something like that. So the confidence rate between extracted word as and user A and user B and user C is not the same. Of course, you says that staying at home is also it could be issue. Of course, it's issue. Staying at home, for example, staying at home could be issue, right? Because we found that staying at home is issue, but AI can found it as an idea.
Okay, so in my understanding, probably the AI is already have been supervised to facilitate like this meditation. Yes. What's the merit? And it's already inputted to the AI how to facilitate.
Yes, correct.
Okay, now I understand how it was tagged like merit.
Correct,
Thank you so much.
Correct. This is already facilitated messages based on some rules. The AI, the agent can facilitate using those facilitated messages. It means cannot mind the semantic of posted elements of citizens, then based on that, like as a human facilitate. No, that cannot do that like that. Just it use the from the data set of facilitated messages.
Okay, thank you so much. And is there any question from the audience? Nothing? Okay, thank you so much. And could you turn the host to me, please? Or I don't know, like
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you so much. And how do you say? So the next, okay, let me explain a little bit about next kind of issues. So we have already finished the presentation of Kim and Rafik, and thank you so much for your interesting presentation. And from now on, we are going to move next topic, the larger mass and multi-agent system, basic of the multi-agent system, and how to apply it to the social usage. And but prior to move to the Jafak's presentation, I'd like you to consider a little bit about the what kind of conflict of the access exist under COVID-19 で、例えばですね、どんな対立があるかってよく言われるのがですね、キム先生がおっしゃったように、その年寄りの方と若い方の対立があると。So youngers, so easy to go to the karaoke and affected that converts to seniors. So don't go out, younger people, younger generation, let's stay with that kind of evil, that kind of syndrome happened in Japanese society. そうですね、ちょっと若い方が責められたりとかすることもあった。で、これも一つの対立軸だとは思うんですけど、それでこういう昔どんどん 日本に人間が進歩していく、それに反してこういう生活をした方が COVID コロナが広がらないんじゃないかっていうプログレッシブview towards science and retrospective view to the science。 昔の生活に戻りましょう。私も花壇いじりなんかしてますけどね、そういうふうにするようになったんですね。また What kind of access of content can you find under COVID-19? How do you feel about this issue? そう、どうですか？日本語でもいいんですけれども、その COVID下でですね、何か対立軸っていうものを見つけることはありましたでしょうか？またこの対立軸について私たちどういうふうに考えたらいいんですかっていうようなですね、話題提供をちょっとしたいと思うんですけれども、どうでしょうか？例えば、ケンモチさんですかね。ケンモチさんとかいかが思われますか？いらっしゃらない。山岸さんとかいかが思われますでしょうか？ないですか？じゃあ平野舞さんにまた戻りたいんですけど、平野さんとかはなんか対立するものがあるっていうふうに感じたことはありますでしょうか？
はい。難しいかな。I live in Tokyo.
Yes.
People in the countryside maybe might think I'm a Viking.
So Mai want to say like so he's living in the Tokyo area or something like the very city side, and he feel like when they move towards the countryside like Kyushu or Hokkaido, she might be taken as a sanitary crisis or kind of virus crisis or some virus or something like that. She herself feels like that. Is that the same? That's really so. I feel so sorry about that. Actually, we live in the countryside feel like that. どうでしょうかね。じゃあ、ケンモチさんはマイクが使えない。じゃあ、また浅野さんに戻りたいんですけど、浅野さんなんかいかに思われますか？対立実に対しまして。
先ほどの講演ありがとうございました。すいません、あまり質問が
大丈夫です。はい。
そうですね、やっぱり死生観っていうんですかね、人それぞれの生きる生き様とかそういうのが、私はその日暮らしで、一日楽しければいいっていう人もいれば、きっちり未来をきちんと予測しながら企画を作ってやれる人もいてですね、どっちがいいという話じゃないんですけど、そういうような考え方次第で、日々の生活の仕方が変わると思うんですね。例えば私が会社で、別に GoTo トラベルじゃなくて GoTo イートもやってるんで飲み会行きましょうって言って、いや危ないからやめた方がいいんじゃないかっていうような、
思いやりですかね。
そうですね、根っこをほじくると多分その人の人生観とか死生観とか、そういったところで対立というよりかは違いが出て、行動に違いが出てくるなというふうに思っている。
じゃあ浅野さんはどちらかというと、行っちゃいますというふうなタイプの
そうですね。
それが少し変わる人と変わらない人という。
あとは先ほどのご発表にもありましたけど、要は市民とか、行政のヘルスケアの専門家とか、それぞれごとにイシューなのかアイデアなのか、捉え方が違うって非常に面白い発表だったなと。
コメントですね。そう、浅野さん。
どうぞ、すいません。
そう、浅野さん、ちょっと続けて言いたいことが続けていただ
そういうのも含めると、多分いろんなある意味ある程度のコミュニティとかある程度のセクターで持っている価値観に近いものがあるのかなというふうに思うと、そういう捉え方の違いをうまく使いながら 行動をこうコントロールしていくみたいな、そういうのもできるのかななんていうふうには思いました。ありがとうございます。
So Asano-san just commented like there is a person who think like the death are a little bit lighter and this deeper. So that kind of cognitive difference between the people would be obvious. For example, Uber Eats, who would go to take that kind of take out foods, and I go to the first. I do that kind of role. So, and there is people who deny that kind of things. And it's also related to Javik's presentation about the patient and doctor and citizen have a different view towards that kind of COVID-19. And he said like, it's very interesting. And ありがとうございます。本当いろいろ意見を言っていただいてですね。そういうやっぱ違うことがやっぱりいろいろあると思うんですよね。で、そのいろいろ違う考え方っていうのをですね、やっぱりマスっていうのは、マルティエージェントシステムっていうのは、測るっていうんですかね、オプティマイゼーション、最適化っていうのをしていこうということなんですよね。で、このマスがですね、どのようにできるかどうかっていうのを次、ジャワッド先生にですね、お願いしたいんですけども、So Jawad is going to take the topic about how math can work for social problem solution like the COVID-19 and okay, can I sorry, pass my turn to you, Jawad, please? Sorry, Rafik, Professor Rafik, please. Sorry. And like this, okay. So, are you there, Rafik? Are you there, Rafik? Where's are you?
I think Rafik just come to me. He has some problem with his browser, so maybe it takes some few times, maybe few seconds. He will come back.
Yes, he is not among the participants, and so he must have had technical issues, but he's back. There he is.
So ですね。Okay, so Rafik, yeah, here. Finally, he returned back. Okay, Rafik, could you speak up, please?
Yeah, thank you. So I think Zoom hates me. Every time it has to kick me out. Okay. Oh my God. So how many minutes do I have?
25.
Okay. So can you see my slides? Can you see my slides? Hello? Hello? Can you see my slides?
Rafik, we can see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I haven't heard anyone. Okay, so I'll be talking about, initially it will be a bit technical, but then I'll try to converge towards some of the topics that were discussed. In particular, I will talk about the notion of agent or artificial agent and how it could relate to how humans conceive or we conceive ourselves physically, and how also we could use this kind of technology to solve the problem of COVID in particular. So this is my outline. So I'll start about the notion, talking about the notion of artificial agents, and then from the notion of agent, we'll see how we can generalize it into society of agents, and that's basically the notion of a multi-agent system. And then we will see how these multi-agent systems could be used to deal with natural disasters and particularly pandemics. And then we will combine this notion of multi-agent system with our perception of life, in particular after COVID. So the notion of artificial agents comes within a whole ecosystem, and this ecosystem relates to computation and what we can do with large databases and powerful servers. So there's an increase in computation power. We have also a lot of big data we can use for these computations. And also there's multiple diversified types of services we can use to do a lot of things with these platforms. There's also an improved understanding of human cognitive and behavioral processes, in the sense that psychologists and cognitive scientists has produced many formal models that could be easily translated into algorithms, and these algorithms could be used to solve problems and particularly to build artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence and machine learning come as a result of this, and usually it's coupled with the notion of distributed systems. So usually a distributed system is much more powerful than a centralized system located in one position. For example, the internet, for instance, is one good example of a distributed system. So we can also find recent examples like AlphaGo, like a very powerful, let's say, machine learning platform that could beat humans in very difficult games. You have also a notion of distributed systems applied to, let's say, like markets and economics, and the ability actually to build markets that don't really rely on currency as we conceive physically. Okay. Are you still following? Are you hearing me? Hello.
Yes, I can.
Okay, because there's no feedback. I thought I was disconnected. Okay, thank you, Kim.
I'm following.
Okay, so now let's start with the notion of agent. So what is an agent? So the concept of agency predates artificial intelligence and even computer science. So it's found in philosophy, it's found in psychology, and it's very tricky concept to define. It's easier to define it within the limits of computer science, but it's more difficult if we try to go beyond like algorithmic or mechanistic views of the world. So the way it is conceived in artificial intelligence, it is basically an intelligent, autonomous, and artificial entity that could interact with its environment, make decisions, and then also learn from the environment in certain instances. So let me go through these terms one by one. So the notion of intelligence, usually it's not the intelligence as we conceive as humans. For example, if you get an IQ test, or if you, for example, look at the developmental cycle of kids and how their intelligence is assessed in school. But this is mostly the intelligence that allows the agent to solve a specific number of tasks, particular problems. For example, let's say solving like matching between images, or making inferences to solve logical problems, or identify images. So these are very specific instances of these problems. So this is the intelligence we're talking about. So the autonomy here has to do with the ability of these agents to act without the without the let's say without the influence of humans. So they have like an agenda, a number of goals, and then they pursue these goals without any external like input. So artificial here is really important. Why? Because here we differentiate between agents as they exist in the biological world or nature, and the agents created by humans. So a biological, let's say a cell is also an agent, but it has its characteristics that could also be reproduced in an artificial world like computers, but some agents are much more difficult to model, like the human brain, for instance, or humans. So artificial is really important. So they're deployed in environments. So the environment usually could be computer, could be a network, could be, let's say, physical world. If you think about robots, they, like I said, they make decisions by virtue of their autonomy. And most importantly, they can learn from the environment and from humans, in the sense that they can observe humans on a long period of time, detect, let's say, learn from their actions, and then model them, and then on the long term, learn how to exploit these actions. And this is really an important characteristic of agents. So it's a new paradigm for software, like engineering and software application. Previously, we usually dissociate between data and algorithm, and then came in the object-oriented paradigm that combined the two, and then we had one object. The agent paradigm came in and created like a new shift, in the sense that it tried to borrow notions from cognitive science and then embed them in these computational tools. So it is a computational model of cognition, basically, from its simplest form of action and sensing to its highest form, whereby we try to model, it's called like theory of mind of particular agents. So that's why it's a paradigm that is not specific to AI, but many psychologists and cognitive scientists and neuroscientists are using it to understand many phenomena. So it has a lot of applications. So these are mostly in, let's say, engineering. So you can find it online assistant chatbots. You can find it in as avatars of robots. So basically a robot has something that guides him, and what guides him is usually an agent. You can find it in automated negotiation. You can find it in drones, self-driving cars. So all these systems are guided by what's called agent. So there's something that usually computer scientists and engineers do. It's like we like usually just to take one thing and then multiply it and get many entities and then see what happens. So if we do the same to the notion of agent, we get something what's called a society of agents, and particularly a multi-agent system. So it starts with one agent interacting with one human or with its environment. And then if we add more agents interacting with other humans, we can get something more complicated. And if we connect all these different parts, we can get something that is computationally much more powerful. It has access to more data. It can deal with domain-specific expertise. For example, one agent could do natural language processing. The other one could make inferences. The other one could deal with images. So this division of tasks basically scales up the intelligence of these groups in a similar fashion to humans, basically. So you get more autonomy and more intelligence. So if we isolate the different artificial agents here, that's a multi-agent system, basically. And this is what we will be talking about in the next slides. So we will study, let's say, the properties of these kind of systems, their utility in certain solving certain problems, COVID, for instance, and then we also see their impact on humans. So in a nutshell, a multi-agent system is a system composed of multiple interacting intelligent agents. So you have these artificial entities, so they send messages to each other. They sometimes take one task and then they divide it amongst each other, and then they start to solve it like individually. Then they combine their solutions, and eventually they'll get to a, let's say, a solution that usually is impossible to solve for one individual monolithic system. Again, this is in a way mirroring how humans evolved and separated from other primates, in the sense that humans have the ability to work with groups that go beyond like thousands, basically. If you take a factory, for example, starting from the designers to the labor to the like distribution, all this like pipeline, usually it's very difficult to put in, implement, but humans can do this easily. And there were many comparisons between chimps, for example, and the largest number of group they can form. I think it was up to the 150, I think. Beyond that, they cannot really organize amongst each other. So humans can do that, and we reproduce the same thing with these agents. And we actually can do more than what humans can do, because these agents could actually run for days non-stop, and they have really performant computational capabilities. So this is mostly the structural aspects of these agents. But in order to implement these agents and allow them to solve these problems, we need like an underlying theory, or usually like the approach to solve these problems. So you can find different approaches for this. So one of the most important ones is the game theoretic framework used by applied mathematics and economics. And it's useful in particular to model conflicting situations where you have self-interested person or self-interested agents with their own preferences, their own goals. They're rational. They try to, let's say, minimize certain utility. So they are utilitarian. And in a way, we try to get reach the best outcome for both of these agents. So if they follow different strategies, we try to find the optimal strategy that makes everyone happy. So this framework is used extensively in the multi-agent systems because it gives you let's say, an algorithmic way that could be deployed and run in real time. So there are other approaches that are much more towards optimization and constraint satisfaction, like DCOPS. So it's very useful in when you have distributed systems. They don't necessarily have to be intelligent. So they just follow these algorithms and until eventually they get to their goals. So there is the BDI model. Usually, this model mimics how humans conceive their beliefs and desires using some functions. And in a way, it reproduces similar phenomena within these agents. So in terms of the types of these multi-agent systems, or let's say topologies, so that basically means the way that these agents could be structured to work together. So it depends on, it depends on the application domain. For instance, if you look at flat distributions, flat like representation like the first one here. So it's usually used for distributed systems. You have a number of computers interacting on the internet, for example. So usually you would structure your system in this fashion, like each node will send a message to the next node of the network. If you're dealing with more coalitional settings, like the ones that use game theory, where you have groups of agents that interact now, but then eventually they might change the interactions with other agents. So this is more useful to model, for example, democracies, for example, how countries cluster together depending on their interest, and how they might get out of these coalitions based on some events, for instance. This is also useful to model elections, for example. If you have an election and you want to model it using this multi-agent system paradigm, you would use this game theoretic representation. So the third one is what's called like holonic multi-agent system. It's a hierarchic multi-agent system where you have different levels of abstraction. So on the top, you have a high level. It's very, let's say, understandable for humans. It's intuitive. And the more you go down, the more you get to, let's say, levels of detail. So it gets more technical. So these like systems are usually good for complex systems, like systems like what happen in the real world, like biological system, like cities, like systems that cannot be flattened out, like in the first example. And I'll show later that this type of architecture, the holonic one, is well suited to model things like pandemic. And we'll see how we can do that. So are you all guys following, still following?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. So, okay, thank you. So there are many applications of these systems. So notably in computer networks, to manage security between networks. So if you just use simple algorithms, sometimes these protocols could be corrupted. So if you use a sophisticated intelligent agent, their behavior could adapt based on the problem. Routing, cloud networks, social networks, most recently, like Facebook or all the Teams, all the like messaging applications, they rely on chatbots. It's used in robotics and supply chains, modeling complex system. It goes from cells and modeling cancers to like modeling like anorexia. It's used in smart grids and distributed control of electricity. For example, if you have smart meters and you try to use like electricity in a smart way, so if you have an agent that can interact with other agents, then you can reduce your electricity consumption. And this is currently being used for like self-driving cars and the way they get charged. So it's also used in cities and urbanism planning because you can emulate large cities without basically building anything or doing any physical like labor. So I'll take two instances of examples and then later we will use them to elaborate on the pandemic's COVID case. So in the first example, this was a project in from 2015 to 2017. This happened right after the Fukushima, let's say, event and during the times where people were concerned about earthquakes, tsunamis, radioactive leaks, and basically how to predict these things before they happen. So predicting these events usually requires us to model these events and their, let's say, ecosystem. So in this project, we built basically large simulations of, a large simulator of cities. The simulator could also simulate road traffic, pedestrian movements with particular behaviors, and it could simulate weather conditions. So by combining all these different layers, as you can see here, we could get a realistic simulation of a city. And then if you change certain parameter, you could actually see how the system would behave. If you, for example, increase the, let's say, the precipitation and make the weather condition really, let's say, problematic, and then create some congestion in the streets, you can see how the system would evolve. So it's a very good way of creating these realistic emulations. So on the right side here, you can see the actual multi-agent system. So it has different components here. So each component will take care of a particular thing, and each component has a number of agents that interact together in order to solve a particular problem. So this part here, for example, is a physical emulation of behavioral, let's say, models, usually humans moving around, humans driving cars, basically physical motion. You have here models of traffic, models of geographic, geolocalization, and how properties of the environment change from one area of the Earth to the other one. You have also the emulation of weather data. So this is a heuristic weather data. So all these different components or agents here are all combined within one platform that allows us to emulate these phenomena. So the second example is the most recent one. This is basically the system that Jawad was talking about. So it's it's mostly dealing with social problems and basically how to use AI or these agent platforms to address social problems throughout the medium of natural language, basically people discussing and the AI trying to make sense out of this content. So the system was basically deployed in three major, let's say, settings. One was in Japan here in Nagoya, basically governance issues and internal administrative matters here in Nagoya. It was used in the example addressed by Jawad in Afghanistan, usually dealing with urban planning and citizen issues, and most recently COVID, how COVID is basically treated in Kabul. The third one is mostly educational with participants from Myanmar for this time experiment. So this is basically the platform. So it's a multi-agent system, but customized for natural language. And since Kaoru tried to ask a few questions about it, so I could go through some of the details of this platform and how we basically dealt with natural language processing and how the agents here came into play. So this is an overview of the architecture. So you basically have it's a website. You have the interface here. So it's a, let's say, any online website where you can type in your opinions, discuss with people, etc. But it has the advantage of being driven by this AI here. And this AI is composed of different agents, and each part does something specific in particular. So the first one here is the conversational agent. So this part here basically is what interacts with the humans. So it takes an input from the humans, the content they write, and also answers them by generating the appropriate content. It follows particular scripts to generate different dialogues based on some rules, but it doesn't have a high level of intelligence. There is another component here, which is the corrective agent. So this one governs the, let's say, the goal orientedness of the agent. So it follows particular rules to solve particular problems. So it has policies like if we need brainstorming, so it will adapt in a particular way. If we just want to, if you want to brainstorm, it will follow brainstorming rules. If participants want to deliberate, it will follow other particular types of rules. There's another component here dealing with the argumentation aspect of this discussion, because they are debates. So here we basically break the discussion down to arguments, positive and negative arguments, and see how they could relate to each other and how the agent could make inferences based on these. So we're dealing with text. So whenever you have text, you need to do some statistical analysis of this text and extraction of the content. So this is done by this component here, which is the natural language processing engine. So this part here basically takes the input, it extracts the different posts, it labels them basically following the four labels mentioned by Jawad, so issue, idea, pro, con, and then it can do many other things like summarization, sentiment analysis, etc. And it creates a structure here that is used by the argumentation engine here. And all these agents interact, and eventually they provide their output to the users. So this is how the system is structured, basically. And it's multi-agent. Like I said, it uses NLP, and it tries to, let's say, reduce the complexity of some of these wicked problems like governance because the agents are very, let's say, computationally much more powerful than humans. Okay, so moving to the part where we try to combine multi-agent systems and pandemics. So pandemics are natural disasters. So let's reason about natural disasters in particular. So first of all, like I said, we need to model these things in order to be able to provide solutions. But the problem, these like phenomena are very difficult to model. Like I showed the example of the routings, like you have different layers, different phenomena, precipitation, humans walking around, cars walking around, and each part is governed by different rules of physics and behavior. So same thing goes with these disasters. Actually, it's much more complicated than that. So COVID is very similar in the sense that it's not just the virus, but it's the virus plus other phenomena that we need to pay attention to. So the challenge is not modeling the virus, but it's actually modeling the interactions of the virus with the ecosystem. So you have the virus, but then you have other parts. You have human population, you have an infrastructure, you have like transportation circuits, you have houses, you have urban areas that get touched more than the others, etc. You have also flights, airplanes that usually spread the disease more efficiently than normal routes. You have also social networks and how people react to the virus, to the information, and also how they get affected by social medias. It basically could actually even affect their immune system by increasing the level of anxiety. So this is all a complex system, and multi-agent systems are well suited for this type of complex system, like I gave the example of discussions or traffic routing. So emulating this system would require a very similar architecture, the Holonomic one showed. And what we can do basically with this as a proposal is basically be able to simulate lockdown policies in certain areas and see their effect there as opposed to other lockdown policies. You can do contact tracing by looking at how these agents move and then how they could spread the disease. So this is all simulation based on agents. You can also do the hotspots prediction, which parts of the city will be affected more, and see how the increase in infections will spread. And also assess the resilience and behavioral responses of governments and also of communities. So all this could be done by adopting this kind of like Holonomic multi-agent system. Okay, so to summarize and to give two main points. So the previous one is how to use masks to solve COVID, but there is another important part here that connects more to Kim's presentation in particular, which is mostly how will this affect our life after COVID. So the first one was modeling and proposing solutions to the problem. This is mostly technical. The second one is adapting ourselves and our technologies to the problem. So that's how masks could affect us in the way. And this is visible with online platforms, virtual reality. I mean, we currently actually using Zoom, and Zoom is a like one result. I mean, this is a result of COVID, basically. So this eventually will create physical constraints will be dissolved. Sorry, I skipped a slide. So we'll be shifting from real world to a virtual world, basically. That's what's going to happen. And it's starting. Zoom now is just maybe a communication tool, but eventually we will be using these kind of agents and avatars to represent us in a way, because we cannot be connected all the time. And some of these agents are actually running on our phones, but we just don't acknowledge them. So this, as a result, will create the solution of our physical identity or physical like presence, in the sense that it will be shifted to the virtual world, and in sense it will create a new sense of self or a new representation for us. The way, for example, I am perceived in the camera, the way in virtual reality I'm represented as a 3D agent, and it will become more like an avatar-like representation of humans. So I think this is, on the long run, if agent and multi-agent systems are well integrated within our communication tools, I think it will start changing our perception of our physical presence. And in particularly, people who don't really have any, are not in touch with the physical world. So The two aspects are here. So adapting ourselves to multi-agent systems. Technically, it will happen using the modeling of behavioral, let's say, behavioral model of humans using machine learning. On the right side here is an example used for basically modeling behaviors of drivers. So the curves here show how different drivers behave based on, let's say, age or let's say the ability to drive. So the way they turn the wheel will affect their velocity, and then you can get rough driving, careful, very careful. So careful drivers usually are associated by either conservative drivers or elderly people. And this is artificial. So this behavioral model was actually used by agents to emulate humans. So all these behavioral models are learned from real data and then reproduced on artificial agents. Yes, so like I mentioned, we will basically be adapting our technology using mass. So we will have a new generation of online platforms, like Degree, the system I described, where you're not just trying to solve problems with humans, but you're also trying to solve problems with AI. And sometimes you cannot even tell which is which. Also virtual reality using Gather, Zoom, etc. So mass combined with all these technologies will change our, basically our presence from the physical world to the virtual world. And that could have a strong impact on humanity within, let's say, up to the 50 years. And it got accelerated more with COVID in the sense that this shift from physical to virtual, happened within a matter of a year, I think. So in summary, so we looked at the computational and data storage capabilities and how they increased during the past 10 years, notably with the rise of AI and how it's being used in all aspects of life now. The ability to model complex systems to solve difficult problems using multi-agent systems and the algorithms that they use. So as outcome, so we have two things. So mass or these agents could solve problems using scalable artificial intelligence. We have computers that run every day to just simulate and make computations. Last part is the change that this revolution will induce to our lives, in the sense that we will cease being physical entities, going every morning to our workplace, interacting with our colleagues, into having a virtual presence on the network, and that would become our self, basically. So thank you for following. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, or any question now is welcome. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for the presentation, Rafik. I just want to hit some questions. Is it possible to mix up all together some kind of topologies, for example, the 2D and 3D and conflict? And some conflict can be applied to the kind of 3D type of the topology model, or for example, conversational agent could be mixed up together and with a proactive type of agent for make a solution for some kind of social problem. Is it possible?
Are you talking about this figure or this figure?
Yeah, so it's totally this one. So for example, the axis of some conflicting axes, there is the game type theory, right? So A could be different from B. And is it possible to integrate both kind of facility to one system, 3D type and 2D type?
Okay, so I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question with the theoretical terms and also in practical terms. So theoretically, yes, it's possible to combine these different architectures, like what you see here. Usually, the complex one,
yes.
If you look at level 2, for example, this is actually flat. So it's this one here. You can have different types of topologies here, and together they represent this complex system. But theoretically, yes, it's possible to do that. So in practice, if you look at here, for example, one of the reasons why the whole system was split in different parts is basically because its phenomena can only be simulated in one particular way. If you simulate, for example, weather precipitation, you need to follow one model. If you simulate people walking in the street, that's a completely different model. So for computational and like conceptual reasons, yeah, it is possible to split everything together. If you look at the second system here, the same division is also actually required because each agent will do something completely different from the others.
Okay, so thank you so much. So it's time for ending up this this kind of meeting, and so sorry for this kind of bad emanation of timing. But for the kind of 皆さんですね、参加していただいてちょっと話していただく時間がなくてちょっと申し訳ないんですけども、ラフィックさんがですね、やっぱマスの応用っていうのがホットスポットを探す、ロックダウン、あとトレーシングですね、誰がどこに行ったか、そういうこともできるようになっているということですので、まずですね、マスに対する夢を広げていただいて、それとともにその測る要素っていうんですかね、いろいろ考える要素、パラミターっていうのを皆さんの方から意見出しっていうのを伺いたかったんですけれども、また皆さんとお目にかかる機会がありましたら、それをやっていきたいと思います。どうもありがとうございました。Thank you for everybody participating, and we can just work together for the further issue all together, and see you again. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you so much. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
Thank you.
どうもありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。Oh, that was awkward. Okay. Jawad, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's live streaming.
Okay. Okay, that was weird. I can't. Can you hear me, Kim?
Maybe we can reconnect somewhere else.
It's okay. It's okay. I can hear you.